Having a better half is important to us, as we always trust him or her, and after our parents, they are the real means of our relationship until they make us fool. The first thing you need to do is to hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel before we get into the incident. I'll call my wife Raquel, 35 years old age, and I'll call myself Jana, 40 years of age. I was a pilot for an airline, and Raquel was a professor of literature at a university at the time that we met. It's been 6 years since we got married. I remember having a very nice marriage despite the fact that we always spent time apart from each other. Due to the nature of my job, it is quite challenging. It was always my duty to fly to any part of the world based on the route that I was given. Whenever I come home from work after long duration, my plans to entertain Raquel have been arranged in many exciting ways, and I've been able to make her happy every time I do so. It was just because of her that I was happy. Although we never had any kids, I wanted to have them because it was a very long period of time, and we never had any children in that time. It was getting late now already. I was getting into my 50s by the time I realized it. Now that we're getting older, I was thinking that it would be good to have children at this point. Due to the fact that I have to travel a lot, I decided to take some time off this time because I also felt like my life has been screwed up for some time. I missed Raquel and wanted to spend as much time as possible with her during this time, as well as trying to have a baby was also on my list of priorities at the time. So I took a leave from my job and came home early. I told Raquel that I was going to fly for 4 weeks, but I arrived home early on 2 weeks. It was my intention to surprise Raquel. On my way home, I was driving in my car to get there. While I was driving home, I stopped the car to buy her some flowers and a bottle of wine that she liked more than anything else. After buying the item, I was en route to my house in case she might be out of the house with her friends. I thought I should call to confirm whether she was there or not. As I was talking to her, I told that I was just missing her. I pretended to be on my way to the plan as I was just about to get on. According to her, she was at home and is missing me as well. I was very happy to hear that she would have a grand surprise when she saw me at a time when she was missing me so much. In my memory, it was about 10:30 in the evening when I arrived at the place, and when I reached, it was approximately 11:40 in the night. There was a master key in my possession. After I retrieved the keys from my bag and opened the door very calmly, I walked into the house. There was no doubt in my mind that this time she would be watching Netflix at her laptop on the bed instead of watching TV. Upon entering the house, I made my way across the hall to the living room. Opening the door of my bedroom in the middle of the night, I gasped in surprise. My life was turned upside down by a scene that I found that turned it from heaven to hell. I saw a man on the Raquel while they were having sex, for they were both covered with a sheet and they were completely naked. The bottle of wine and a bouquet of flowers fell from my hands in shock as soon as I stepped inside the door. I was blown away by what I saw. Standing there, I was watching that bitch constantly with her fucker, and I was watching the whole time. In a panic, they both got up and got out of bed. They began to look for their clothes and they started looking through them. In the doorway, as I was standing there, the next thing I did was grab both of their clothes and lock the door, take a small chair and place in the door and set it down. Raquel then started crying and shouting hysterically. Then she started to tell me that it doesn't look like what you're thinking it does. I told Sad, "You dirty bitch, shut your dirty mouth and take a deep breath." They had lost their clothes as they yanked them off. I stopped the man from running out of the room where he attempted to leave. The baseball that I had in my cupboard was the first thing I pulled out. He was smashed on the feet by the bat and he had to sit in the corner of the room. Using my mobile camera, I started recording them. I asked them to tell me from where they started. Afterwards, she said it was the first time she called him at home again that I had hit the man in the face. Raquel said, Okay, I'm not going to hide anything from you. Don't hit him." My answer was yes. That would be the best option for him as well as for you. Over the past 7 months, she has been involved in an affair, she said. Then I asked her how much time both of you had spent sleeping, Despite the fact that she doesn't count, she said that whenever you're not at home, I'll call him and ask him to come over. In my question, I wanted to know who that man is. According to her, he was a colleague of hers and a professor at her university. There was a moment when I had tears in my eyes filled with pain, and I asked her why she did that to me. In her response, she explained that she felt lonely and it was hard for her to get along with me when I was working far away from home. The many times that she felt even depressed, her colleague was always hold her and take care of her when she needed it. After that, I asked her boyfriend if he was married, and his answer was yes, and then I hit him over the head with the bat. Suddenly, Raquel began to plead with me not to harm him in any way. It has been said that you're such a slut that I am your husband and you still take the side of that dog. In anger, I hit the side of the bed where she was sitting. Suddenly, she started shouting loudly at the top of her lungs. When she started shouting, I said I would kill that bastard if she did not stop. As she stopped, it was obvious that she had a great deal of concern for that son of a bitch. I then asked the man about his phone. I was told by him that the phone he had was in his pants. After grabbing the phone out of the pocket, I took the pin from the phone and opened it and started scrolling through the phone. Having seen his family picture, I asked him to explain what he really meant when he had a very beautiful wife. Why did he cheat on her so much? He apologized for the mistake and asked for forgiveness. I told him not to beg me, but he was begging me all the time. With my cell phone, I recorded everything that happened. In reply, I replied that who was I to forgive you? Your wife would be the one to deal with you. Then I called his wife and I told her the whole story of what had happened and sent her the video. On the phone, she started crying and told me to tell her husband to never come home again because everything is finished by her and it has been decided by her that our marriage is over, and if he tries to come back to our home, I will call the police. Due to the loudspeaker being on, he was able to hear everything that was being said. I let him go until I beat him well enough that I thought that the bone in his hand might have been broken. In spite of this, I did not care about it. Finally, after beating him, I gave him the clothes and let him go after giving him the clothes to wear. It took me a while to open the door and then shut it again. I still had the clothes of Raquel in my possession. My first step was to go to Raquel and then I sat next to her. My first action was to take a cigar and start smoking while seated next to her. When she started crying badly, I told her to calm down, that I was just talking with her about this matter. I asked her if she could tell me what I did not buy for you, that I should have. As she put it, you gave me everything you had. I then asked him to tell me for whom I was flying, even for 36 hours, and for what purpose. Could you please tell me if I have any other loved ones for whom I was doing all of this? She replied that you were doing this for me, not you. As we spoke, I sprinkled the ashes of the cigar on her leg and said her not to move. If she did, I would be the worst person ever. As she sat there continuously, she did not move. I then removed the sheet that was covering her, and I was able to see her clearly, no matter how much torture it was. That was the act that came into my mind at the time. My first question was to her that if that was the first man who had ever slept, was he the first? In the midst of all of this, she refused to answer and was trying to hold my hand. However, I insisted that this would be the best option she had. In the past 6 years, she had slept with 3 men, and while crying, as soon as I slapped her very gently, she became unconscious and did not regain consciousness for a long time. As I sat in the chair where I was sitting, I closed my eyes. As I sat there, I was filled with anger. A period of 1 hour passed before she awoke. During the 1 hour period, I spent my time in a situation that was similar to hell. My brain was about to explode, but I had no idea when it was going to happen. As soon as I picked up the bottle of alcohol, I opened up and poured it all over her body. Suddenly, she woke up and said, "What are you doing? Just shut up and don't say anything to me." I hit her with my feet in anger, often which I told her that she had to confess everything and that I would record her confession. In the beginning, she told me who she had slept with and what had happened behind me, everything that had occurred. I then took her phone and called her mother to come over as soon as possible. After locking her in a room, I went to the hall. According to them, they are on their way. During the course of that time, because I had their cell phone, the video that I recorded with her fucker as well as her confession were sent to all of her friends and contacts via her cell phone. This includes all of her students, colleagues, relatives, siblings, and anyone else who is closer to her. After a while, her mother and her sister came to see her. I gave them my cell phone and they were able to see the whole recordings of her infidelity along with the confession she gave me. Then I told them to get her along with them as soon as possible. There is no relation between me and her at all. The door was opened and when they found Raquel in the room, they saw her taking clothes from the closet. As she stepped out of the room, she grabbed my feet as if she was asking for forgiveness. However, I told her mother to get her away from there as soon as possible. As a result of what she had done, she was facing the consequences of her actions. I felt like I was going to die after she left me because it had been 6 years of marriage. I was completely content with her, even though I was thankful to God who sent a reassurance in my life, but I was totally wrong. Her real face ruined everything. My expectations were destroyed by it, and I had no idea what to expect.